Happy Monday, everybody. Okay, last week I said we're going to talk more about debt in another episode. Well, here we go. So, one of the mantras I've always said in our Monday missives was you must respect debt. Now, debt is like any tool, it can be used for good or bad, and it's a very powerful tool. But think about fire or electricity or a gun or a sharp kitchen knife. It's a great tool. Now, if you don't respect it, you could get very hurt. You could hurt others with it. The same with debt. And unfortunately, I'm afraid that the United States government, as well as the American citizen, doesn't respect debt the way they should respect any other tool. So let's look at the consumer right now. Credit card debt is the highest it's been in 20 years in American households. Meanwhile, consumer spending is up, and those are hitting reports saying, hey, the economy's still going, it's still going strong. That's not accurate. When you look at the actual numbers, consumers are spending it's more money on the same stuff. They're buying, and they're actually downgrading their purchases. So they're buying cheaper cuts of meat or different types of food instead of prime beef. So prices are going up and they're trying to just maintain, but they're having to spend more money. That's inflation. That's one of the problems that I see right now is that the Fed is continuing to raise rates. Right now they've kind of paused it, but they're trying to pull in inflation. Meanwhile, they're cheering that the economy is going so strong. It's not the economy, it's the inflation. So I think we've got entrenched inflation, and I think it's going to be a while before we can get it back down to that 2%, if they can get it down. That's their goal. And they've let the cow out of the barn, and they're having a hard time getting the cow back in. Okay, so you got U.S. consumer debt. Well, where has the normal consumer learned how to spend that debt? Well, I'd say it's from the United States government. I don't think the U.S. government respects debt either. So right now, the U.S. debt is, compared to GDP, is the highest it's ever been, except for one other time in history, World War II. But I argue that was good debt. So it's kind of like borrowing money for a business that you're going to reinvest into that business, and then that business is going to grow and it'll pay back that debt, no problem. Well, that's the way it was in World War II. Think about World War II. We were going into debt. We beat the Nazis. We harnessed nuclear power. We had split the atom. We created a global economic empire. We had created the largest military the world's ever seen. We were investing in infrastructure too. President Eisenhower built the interstate system, which stimulated the economy, stimulated commerce. That our factories, we were producing airplanes and tanks. Those turned around, and now we're producing cars and commercial airplanes and sewing machines and refrigerators and air conditioners. And we were producing it onshore. So it was an investment that was going to take us to the next level as a country, to the world superpower. Now we're at the same spending levels, but it's not an investment. We're spending on entitlements, on money we owe people, or people feel that they're owed. Also, you've got the military. That's a huge part of our budget, but the military is different than it was in World War II. Last year, we spent $8 billion in Ukraine. For the 20 years prior in Afghanistan, we spent $24 billion. So last year, we spent a third in Ukraine of what we had spent for 20 years in Afghanistan. What do we have to show for it? That wasn't even our military that we were spending it on. And we don't know where the money's gone. There's no accountability. So my concern is the U.S. has not respected debt, and you got to pay the piper. Now interest rates are climbing. Same with the consumer debt, right? The consumer has these credit card balances with higher interest rates. Student loans are now getting paid back at higher interest rates. The U.S. now has to pay back their debt in higher interest rates. So that's my concern. Meanwhile, Greg talked about oil and gold going up. Well, gold has been purchased by central banks around the world at a greater rate than ever in history. I think that's a lot because of the U.S. debt. So remember, I'm going to sign off with that. Respect debt. Your investments are doing very well right now. We expect them to continue to do well. And with that, I'm going to sign off. You guys have a great week.